Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast. BrightWord is a leading platform for diverse storytelling, where voices from all backgrounds can share their unique narratives and connect with readers from around the world. Follow our regular podcast updates, where we strive to foster a literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature.
Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast. Today we're joined for the third and final time by Lorin J. Zaner. He's the author of The Making of Darth Zaner, and Mr. Zaner's career as a criminal defense attorney has spanned decades, and his book gives readers an inside look at the victories, the challenges, and the personal cost of life in the courtroom. Readers have praised it as fascinating, truthful, and highly recommended, calling him a legal bulldog in court, but also compassionate toward his clients. And in his first two appearances, we explored the origins of the book and the sacrifices behind the cases. But now, in this final epic concluding conversation, we will reflect on the book's impact, the feedback from readers, and how Mr. Zaner sees his legacy today. So, Mr. Lorin Zaner, welcome back. This is your third appearance with us. So, how does it feel to see The Making of Darth Zaner still generating such strong conversations?
Well, it's nice to be with you, Robert, today. I'm pleased it's having an impact, that people are enjoying it, people are wanting to read it, and people are finding information that appears to be helpful to them. So that was the goal. And plus, I just felt I needed to get it off my chest and give my family a little bit of an idea as to why I was working so much and not around as much as I wished I could have been.
Very nice. So everyone benefits, right? And they can see what it all has led to, but then you say it's also about the people that you've helped and also the people that are reading the book. And so these readers on Amazon, they've called your book fascinating and highly recommended. So what goes through your mind when you see people responding so positively to your work?
Well, I'm very pleased to get those responses. I don't know that I've heard any negative responses, which is surprising, but especially some of the people on the other side of my cases who aren't happy with me. But sure. I'm very pleased. I'm happy. My dentist ordered a copy of the book, and he says it should be read by anybody who's thinking of going into law or anybody that's gone into law. It's a good history and background of what it takes to be a good trial lawyer.
Well, very cool. So many different people benefit in different ways, right? Different people get their benefits from it. And so one of these reviewers said that your book included both great wins and heartbreaking losses. So why was it important to you to highlight both the victories plus the painful defeats?
Well, because it's my story and it's my life and it's what occurred to me. And when you hear lawyers say they've never lost a case, it means to me that they either have one case or they only try cases that are guaranteed winners. And, I've tried all kinds of cases and some of them were guaranteed losers. But if a client says they want to go to trial, then we go to trial, including the person who was in custody told the deputies he had to go to the restroom, went to the restroom and jumped out the window and escaped for 6 months. I got appointed to the case and I said, "What do you want to do?" He says, "We're going to trial." So, "What's your defense?" "I have none." "Then what are we going to do?" He says, "I'm not going to go into court and admit I did something. I'm going to make them prove it." And so we went to trial.
Oh, wow. So there are some amazing stories in here, right? It's not just about filing papers, but just about these adventures you've had inside and outside of court. And so several readers say that you come across as a legal bulldog, which we understand to mean tough in court, but kind to your clients. So would you agree with that? Do you feel like that's an accurate description of how you practice law?
Well, when I'm meeting with clients or other attorneys outside the courtroom, there's no reason for me to be a jerk or to try to brag about what a good lawyer I am or any of those other kinds of things. It's about being a human being and meeting with people. In fact, one of my long-term clients told me that after our first meeting, he wasn't sure I was the right attorney for him because I seemed so mild and meek and just answering their questions and not trying to demonstrate anything. But he called me Jekyll and Hyde when we got into the courtroom and he saw what I could do. In the courtroom, I like to think it's my courtroom and it's my stage, and I'm in there to be as successful as we possibly can for my client. So I take no prisoners. But outside of court, I don't need to act that way.
Very nice. So you're dynamic, right? You're adaptable. And it sounds like this ticks the boxes of what we want in a lawyer, which maybe we can look at as kind of role model template. And what's great about this book is that it seems like we get entertained. We also learn things, right? And so some reviews noted that your book makes legal concepts easier for non-lawyers to understand. So was that something that you set out to do intentionally while you were writing this?
I don't know that I intentionally did that, but I'm a straightforward kind of person. I don't need to use large words and all kinds of fancy language. I try to get to the point. My background is as a chemical engineer, so it kind of makes me automated to go directly to the point and not throw in a lot of legalese that doesn't need to be there. So I try to use words that people will understand.
And that's good life advice in general, right? That like when you use these big words, sure, maybe it makes you feel good, but if it just confuses things further, if it unnecessarily adds complexity to the conversation, why would you do that? So it's great that it's like you can just understand, what's going on legally. And so, what's been the most surprising or meaningful piece of feedback you've received directly from a reader since the book came out?
Well, I found it interesting. I heard from a personal injury attorney that I know that we really didn't have a lot of contact through my years of practice, but I knew him pretty well. And he contacted me and said he heard about my book, bought it, read it, loved it, and wanted to do a podcast that he could share with clients and other attorneys he's associated with, which made me feel really pretty good. And we did a podcast about a month ago, which I think turned out really well.
Very good. And that's what you want as a book author, right? It's so that the book isn't the end, that it leads to other opportunities, opens new doors, podcast speaking gigs. It'd be great if people recognized you and stopped you on the street, but we can't always aspire to that. But at the very least, hey, you have those fans that say, I'd love to have you on the podcast and unpack some more. And speaking of unpacking, if you could expand one of the cases or stories in your book into a full-length account of its own, is there one that you think you might choose?
Well, there's probably two, but I'll just talk about one. Probably the case where the client was charged with 12 counts of life rape. I was the second attorney involved. At one point in time, the prosecutor accused me of withholding evidence of guilt of my client that I had in my possession, that he was going to file a criminal charge against me for not turning that information over, which I had eventually done. And he was also going to file a bar grievance against me. So I ended up withdrawing because I thought there might be a conflict. Spent $10,000 hiring two attorneys to review what I did. They both said I did everything right. I came back in on the case, and the trial was pretty amazing. And there was nothing greater than hearing 12 not guilty counts from my client, and he was finally released from custody after about 14 or 15 months. And I did some things in that trial which I thought were pretty interesting and helpful for other attorneys. Like I turned the police officer into my expert, that through my cross-examination of the police officer, I got in everything I needed to, and I decided not to call my expert. So that it was an interesting case, and I was obviously pretty pleased when then those not guilty verdicts were read.
Oh yeah, what an accomplishment that you got what you wanted and you also saved your own skin, right? That sometimes attorneys need their own attorneys and you still came out okay. And so we've been speaking so far with Mr. Lorin J. Zaner, the author of The Making of Darth Zaner, in which seasoned defense attorney Lorin Zaner pulls back the curtain on the high stakes, high pressure world of criminal defense. And so we've been mentioning some of these specific cases, and I know that you mentioned some of these cases in past interviews, and some of those cases stayed with you. But now, with more time and perspective, after all these years in some cases, do you see these cases any differently?
No, not really. I see them as to how when they first came in to see me, it was difficult to handle some of them. The first shaken baby case I had was very difficult because one, I didn't know anything about shaken baby and had to spend an incredible amount of time learning. But also, we weren't able to find any experts for a long time. And it was getting to the point that we felt our client may have to take a deal, which we finally ran her on a polygraph. She passed with flying colors, and we were able to get the experts that we needed to be successful. I mean, I made no money on that case, spent $35,000 out of my pocket, bringing in the top experts in the world, and it was great getting the not guilty verdict.
Yeah, and you're kind of explaining to us that you've seen just like so many different crimes, mishaps, adventures, and so do you feel that telling these stories, like you've written it, you put it in a book, you've appeared on podcasts, on others, and on this, do you feel that telling these stories helped you process your career, or do you think it sometimes brings back the old weight of those courtroom battles?
Well, fortunately, it doesn't bring back the weight of those battles. I mean, I certainly remember them. I certainly remember the difficulties that we had gone through when those cases were pending and the concerns I had as to what was going to happen in trial. But I look on them fondly, just like I look on my losses with being upset that was there something else I could have done? And for the most part, I don't think so, but I always second guess myself, especially if there's a loss.
Of course. And so you've done the book reading and the work, and you've done all these kind of the studying and the got built up the experience. So that way, if someone in the future, like the future Lorin Zaner or someone else, if they're in a criminal defense situation, they have someone that's also been around the block and they've seen some things and they've developed similar skills as you have. And so many readers say that your book proves that having the right attorney really does help. So what would you say just about your observations about the justice system? Like, what do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of it?
Well, clearly the justice system as it is in the United States is not perfect. I certainly cannot think of a better system other than maybe how judges are picked and selected. I think they ought to be picked and selected as on merit by an unbiased as much as you can panel of attorneys and maybe judges, as opposed to elections where the judges are more worried about getting elected than not. But clearly the system is not perfect. Those people that have a lot of money have a better opportunity of being found not guilty than someone who doesn't. And it's not necessarily the skill of the lawyer. The lawyer can be every bit as skillful as a court-appointed lawyer, as a private lawyer, but the difference is the monies that you have behind it for investigators, the money for experts, whereas you can get some money from the court for an investigator or experts, but you don't necessarily and can't necessarily get the amount that you need. I spoke at Reverend Al Sharpton's place in Harlem after the not guilty on the shaken baby case. And I talked about indigent defense, representing people that don't have money. And I had done a lot of research. And the courts don't have to give you the best expert. They don't have to give you all the money that you want. They can give you money for an expert, but you may need more than one. And it's not likely you're going to get more. whereas somebody that has the financial resources certainly can get whatever they need.
Okay, so and we've heard this, right? That the justice favors the rich because they have more resources, multiple experts, and it can even outweigh the skill of these attorneys. And that's good for us to know in general. And you've been practicing the law for many years, right? Like any good attorney, you didn't just do it for a couple years, you made a whole career out of it, decades. And so, from your perspective, has the justice system improved in balancing truth, fairness, and compassion compared to way back when you first started practicing?
Boy, I can't tell you that it's improved. Um, in my opinion, prosecutors have an ethical obligation to do the right thing. They shouldn't just do something because someone asked them to do that, or just because they're looking for a notch on their belt, or they're going to try a case that they know they have essentially zero chance of winning, but they're going to try it anyway and leave it to the jury. Because all the expense, all the hardship, all the angst that clients go through because they're charged, to me, prosecutors should do the right thing. If they don't have a case, or they don't have a case that they have a decent chance of success at trial, then they shouldn't prosecute it. And to be forced into prosecuting something, or a prosecutor deciding they're going to prosecute it anyway, to me, that is a total injustice and an abuse of the system.
Okay, so it should be done for the right reasons. And as you said, it's still not perfect, but it's still this best system that we have at this point, perhaps. And so do you think that this role of criminal defense attorney, is it better understood today, or is it more misunderstood by the public compared to past years?
You know, with court TV and all the things that are on the television, I tend to think it's probably understood a little better because of all the publicity and all the programs that are presented on television, including people that have been found guilty, their case gets overturned because of new forensic techniques with DNA and other kinds of things. So I think in that regards, it's probably a little better, but still, a lot of people don't like defense attorneys. They think you're only looking for excuses or little details to get somebody out. It's not our job to convict somebody. It's up to the state to convict someone, and they have to have the evidence. And if they don't have the evidence, then hopefully you'll have a jury that will see that and will find the person not guilty.
Okay, fair enough. So it's a system, and the good news is that we can get educated. Even TV's better than nothing, isn't it? Even it's better than going in there ignorant. And we probably should, if we're in the situation, read a book such as yourself. So we say, okay, well, I have a general idea from TV about, okay, there's the judge and the sides, but to get some real facts and to know some real history, we get into the book. That way we're not basically embellished by the entertainment factor, right? We know what actually happened based on a real criminal defense attorney. But it's also fun, isn't it? Because you have this Darth Zaner persona, which I'd like to revisit real quick, because with even more time away from these daily courtroom battles, how do you see this Darth Zaner persona today? Is it armor? Is it alter ego? Or is it something else?
I kind of look at it as a badge of honor. That name came from my shaken represented police officer charged with sex trafficking. And we went to trial, and he was found not guilty. And one of the women who I knew who represents victims of sex trafficking came up to me and said, "Lorin, I just want you to know we have a name for you." And I said, "What's that?" "Darth Zaner," which is where the name of the book comes from. But I think it's a measure of respect as far as my abilities in a courtroom and what I'm able to do. A lot of people don't like it. You know, there was one time that the county prosecutor told all of her people that working for her that they weren't allowed to talk to me after I received a not guilty on a large case. But I just kind of laughed that off. And of course, they had to talk to me about other cases and things. But, I enjoy the name. In fact, my ringtone for my cell phone is the Darth Vader theme song.
Very cute, very fun. So, and that seems like the best kind of nickname to have, right? Is one where it's given to you, but it's not derogatory. I mean, lawyers for sure get called way worse all the time, and it's like affectionate. And you usually think of Darth Vader as evil, but you've co-opted it into something good and something that you made your own. And so, as far as this Darth Zaner nickname and persona, do you feel like it's maybe taken on a life of its own? Like, has it become a symbol of resilience and unwavering defense for readers?
I hope that it does. I don't know that has occurred, but I'd be pretty proud if that would actually happen for sure.
Well, very amazing, very cool, and I think every town has some kind of attorney that we've heard of, right? We've seen the billboards, the bus benches, the TV commercials. Like, it's kind of fun, right? There's some kind of characters, like a local celebrity, and so we hope that Darth Zaner can maybe be something like that, because you do your day-to-day work, and you have your accomplishments, your achievements, you get things done, but then you get to this point where you say, all right, what does it all mean? What am I passing on? What has my career led to? And you put out a book like this, and you think about your legacy. You think about the conversations that maybe you've sparked. So what do you hope that your legacy will be for future attorneys and readers and anyone else who values justice?
Well, I hope people will understand the work behind what lawyers have to do. We just don't go to court and start arguing in front of a judge. There's a lot of research, there's a lot of writing, there's a lot of mental anguish, there's meeting with witnesses, there's deciding on strategies and theories, there's all kinds of things behind it. So I hope people obtain a better understanding what criminal defense attorneys or attorneys really have to do their job correctly. And I think it's a good book for, as I said, people going into law school or thinking about becoming a lawyer, what it really takes to become a good lawyer. I just didn't want to be the run-of-the-mill average lawyer. When I get involved with something, I want to be the best I can be. And I try to work hard at it. And I hate losing. When I'm in court, I don't want to walk out of there without and not guilty finding.
Very nice. And so this sounds like an amazing book, as you said, for these up and coming lawyers, for people who say, I know that there is like so much work ahead of me, right? So much stress, frustration, things to figure out. And what does it all mean? And what am I looking to accomplish? And so if you're an up and coming lawyer of this sort, this book, The Making of Darth Zaner, offers a rare behind the scenes look at some of these more wild and shocking battles that were fought in the courtroom, and what it took to defend some rightly and wrongly accused individuals. It's called The Making of Darth Zaner. It's an entertaining and informative mediation on the nature of justice, the price of being a defense attorney, and the unwavering belief that everyone deserves their day in court. And that concludes today's episode of the BrightWord Books Podcast and our 3-part series with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Lorin J. Zaner, Darth Zaner. And through these conversations, Mr. Zaner has given us a powerful look into the world of criminal defense. We're talking about its victories, its losses, and its lasting lessons about justice. The Making of Darth Zaner continues to resonate with readers, and this final discussion leaves us with a deeper understanding of both the man and his work. So, on behalf of BrightWord Books, we thank Mr. Zaner for sharing his time and insights, and we thank you for joining us. Until next time, this is the BrightWord Books Podcast.
You've been listening to the BrightWord Books Podcast, home of the literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.